Hello and welcome to Speak Your Mind on Gold FM, only the classic hits, and it's another great episode that we're going to look forward to today. But remember, this is a live coverage on radio, so if you'd like to take part, be sure to listen in every Tuesday after the midday news, and we've got the delayed coverage shown on FBC TV. Thank you a lot for your company. And our guest on Speak Your Mind today is the Chief Executive Officer of the Citizens Constitutional Forum, and this is Mr. Sara Bulutani Mataitawa Kilai. Thank you so much for coming by.
Bulavinaka Luis and Bulavinaka to all our listeners and FBC viewers.
Vinaka. Now, we'll first have to just find out about the Citizens Constitutional Forum. So, when was the Citizens Constitutional Forum formed in Fiji?
The CCF was formally established in 1991. That is after a few years after the 1987 coup and the 1990 Constitution came into being, and a few academics, concerned citizens, they formed this movement called the Early Days Movement.
Yes.
So they start meeting and talking about constitutional issues, democracy in Fiji. So CCF came into existence in 1991 until today.
Thanks for that. So what does the Citizens Constitutional Forum do?
We mostly doing lobbying and advocacy work on human rights, good governance, democracy, the rule of law, and multiculturalism. So those are the areas that we do, and there are 4 teams in CCF. Apart from the management team, we have the legal, we have a research team, communication team, and the communication team that goes out into the community.
That's very nice. Now, what upcoming events does the Citizens Constitutional Forum have in store?
Looking ahead in the next few weeks until the festive season, we have the 2016 Anti-Corruption Day on the 9th of December.
Okay.
We are looking forward to take out the celebration in Nosori town. People in Nosori, and especially in Riau province, we're looking forward to see you there on the 9th of December. And in the coming weeks, we'll begin with the 16 days of activism, where we'll celebrate the Human Rights Day on the 10th of December.
Yes.
And normally in the past we used to have march, and I'm not sure about this year. We are planning to do the same thing, and more interaction with the members of the public, in terms of setting up display booth in partnership with other civil society organizations who will be celebrating a Human Rights Day. And we are also planning to hold a annual debate that is linked to the Human Rights Day. So those are the 3 major activities that we are looking ahead in the coming weeks, apart from our ongoing civic education work out in the communities.
Well, that's very interesting, but what got me is the debate. I love debates, so how do you plan to do the debates? With which organizations, or is it from the public who can take part?
Right now we cannot disclose all the details on that. Hopefully in our next session we will touch on the debate and what we're going to do on the debate.
Okay.
If you agree.
Well, that would be good. Anyhow, what about community work? What does the Citizens Constitutional Forum do in community work?
We, before elaborate on what we actually do in the community, right now we have our target provinces. We target province in our funding period. Right now, our target provinces are Hra, Vakaundrobe, Invonolevu, and Naitasiri. From last year, we had Navosa in our list. So we conduct civic education training on human rights, raise awareness on what is human rights, connecting human rights to the everyday life, to their development, and to their communal living, their relations within the communities, and good governance, how they can become good leaders for leaders we are targeted who are participants, how they can hold our leaders to account, community leaders, church leaders, and representatives who are in parliament, including the civil servant. These are our leaders, and also because these are very big issues, and we always want our community to have a better understanding.
That's
because
right.
when you say human rights, what is human rights? So we try to link that to something that is relate to the everyday life. So then we talk about the development issues. Then we conduct community needs assessment. They prioritize the needs. Okay, we'll help you to design a village development plan or community development plan. Then you look at the needs. If water is an issue, okay, your rights to life.
Yes.
Water is a necessity. Okay, where you can get assistance from.
Right.
If they have been waiting for assistance for someone, government or other assistance for so many years, okay, we can help you. So we'll train them to how to write project proposals.
Right.
And then we'll link them to the donor and to the government.
Well, that's very good assistance, I must say. Like you said, some people, they don't know what to do, and
Yes.
that's why you're there to help people,
Yeah.
so they know what to do.
Yes. And another is the grassroots national budget workshop.
Okay.
This is where we raise awareness on the importance of knowing the national budget process. As you all know, there's a change in financial year by the government.
Yes.
Before it used to be December, November announcement of the budget, and now it is moved to June, July.
Okay.
So we used to hear the comment, okay, the cost of cigarette has gone up, of alcohol, of kerosene has reduced by this so much. But they don't know how to be part of the national budget formulation,
Okay.
how they can contribute. So we take this in partnership with the Ministry of Economy, Budget Division, and other stakeholders. Then we raise on how they can make their submissions in terms of infrastructure, capital infrastructure needs in their geographical area or their communities. Then we will help them how to write submissions and present it to the Ministry of Economy and other line ministries.
Wow, that's great. So a lot of education involved in the work you do, which is very important, I must say.
Yes.
I mean, without education, if you don't know anything, you just remain like that. You won't be able to progress in life.
Yes.
Yes. So what submissions have been made to government by the Citizens Constitutional Forum?
So far, I'll talk about 2015 and 2016. We made submission on the United Nations Convention Against Torture that Fiji has ratified. Submission on the sugar industry, on the proposed sugar industry bill, on the flag and the coat of arms. Recently, we made submissions to the Parliamentary Standing Committee concerned that been tasked to look at the bills such as the freedom of information, and also on the Fiji Election Office and Electoral Commission Annual Report 2014 election.
Yes.
Apart from those submissions to parliamentary standing committees, we made submission to the National Development Plan, 5-year and 20 years development plan.
Okay.
And like I mentioned already, the budget submissions.
Yes.
We've been doing that for the last 7 years.
Okay. Well, we'll be back shortly on Gold FM. This is Speak Your Mind. Welcome back, Speak Your Mind on Gold FM, only the classic hits. Thank you so much for your company. Our guest in the studio today has been kind enough to drop by, the Chief Executive Officer of the Citizens Constitutional Forum, Mr. Matai Tawa Kilai. Now, we left off before the break about submissions that have been made to government by your organization. So how have the follow-ups been with this? Are you happy?
So far we are. the government has taken consideration and taken note of our submission. For example, on UN CAT, we have been vocal for quite some time on police brutality and torture against suspects. And with the adoption of UN CAT, and this is a way we can take we can hold our government to account, because we have ratified this, we have agreed to this international convention, so we have to reduce this torture. So we are making progress towards that, and we are also meeting with the Fiji Human Rights and Anti-Discrimination Commission. That is one example of the progress and the feedback we're receiving from these submissions. And for budget submissions, we have example or cases of communities in the past who have received assistance from the government from the submissions they made through our national budget workshop.
That's great to hear. Now, what about your advocacy work? How is that?
We are using, like what we're doing today, this is part of
Right.
advocacy work. You're using the media,
Yes.
our press releases. Even though we are faced with challenges, for example, with the media decree that is still in place, with self-censorship, not only within CCF, but in other media organizations, that we have to be careful with what we send out for public consumption, and also to avoid possible conflict with authorities. But like I say, advocacy work is going well despite all the restrictions that are in place.
Okay, so well, we might as well talk about human rights. So just simply, what are human rights?
Human rights is a moral entitlement that every individual in the world,
Right.
we possess, simply because the virtue that we are human beings. Our existence today, because of the respect of human rights, and it's said that most people view human rights as an opposition to the norms, to the everyday life, or to the structure, to the existing structures, without realizing almost everything that existing today, they exist or are in place because of human rights.
That's right. I mean, the Bill of Rights, it's internationally, right, with the UN.
Yeah.
So I suppose every government is supposed to be going along those laws as well?
Yeah. Let's say we get up early tomorrow morning, and we didn't hear any news. All the airlines have stopped all movements, and the government has cut off all water connections, electricity, closed all the hospitals, closed all the schools. You just imagine what will be the scenario. The scenario will be like. So,
Yes,
restrictions to our movement. We have our rights of movement,
yes,
to freely go anywhere we want to go to.
right.
Our rights to life. This woman has to give birth to the child, to access medical services, our freedom to information. Our listeners who are listening right now, they want to know, they want to listen to music, they want to know all the updates.
Yes.
So those are examples of rights, and what will happen if we remove these.
Okay, so that's it. Human rights are very important, and you must know them. So why are human rights needed? Well, I mean, you've given an example already, haven't you, about if everything, but maybe you'd like to explain more. Why are human rights needed? And I was just thinking again, how do you represent human rights? You follow that law from the International Bill of Rights, which is also in the Constitution. Is that right?
Yes. First of all, human rights are there to protect and preserve every individual's humanity, to ensure that every individual can live a life of dignity, a life that is worthy of a human being.
Okay.
This is a very strong statement, Luis.
Yes.
the life of being a human. That is why human rights is needed, for you to live, to enjoy life
Yes.
to the fullest,
Right.
but within the ambit of the law.
Yes.
And the law must respect human rights with the freedom. It's I hope I will not be mistaken with what I state. You can live life to the fullest with
Yes.
freedom, but within the law, and the law has to respect human rights.
So it
human
works
rights.
both ways.
It works both ways. Yeah.
Hand in hand.
Yes.
Okay, well, that's good. Now, human rights, it's like you said, very important. Everyone should know about it. So, how can they learn about human rights?
One is through, we have media, we access all this media, and for them to be inquisitive, to know human rights, rather than hearing the word and say, well, human rights is anti-government, human rights is anti-traditional structure, human rights is anti-church. I encourage and I suggest to all of you viewers and listeners, this is something we should know. Once you know your rights, you know where to access information, how to access services, and how to hold our service delivery agencies to account because of their failure to fulfill your rights. And also we have organizations like CCF. There are other NGOs out there in our communities in Fiji who they conduct human rights training.
Right.
And yes, it's something that we should know, and rather than saying having a preconceived ideas of the word or of the concept, but without human rights, I don't think we'll be living in this world.
All right. Well, we'll be back soon on Speak Your Mind. This is your only classic hits radio station in Fiji, Gold FM. Speak Your Mind on Gold FM, only the classic hits. This is a live radio talkback show, and we invite you, if you'd like, if there's something that you'd like to share with the Chief Executive Officer of the Citizens Constitutional Forum, Mr. Matai Tawakilai, you're most welcome to call in. Our number is 3220906. I mean, if you have any questions, or 3220907. If you have a Digicel phone, 77-32907. You're most welcome to call in and ask our guest the question if you'd like. Now, Mr. Matai Tawakilai, we were talking earlier on before the break about how it is really important for people to know their human rights and, just to take that self-initiative to educate themselves on it. I know you guys get a lot of, like you said, negativity, like anti-government or, activists. They think they're too smart, they know it all. So maybe you'd like to clarify this outlook of, NGOs and all that.
Human rights was not created by CCF, or we can say the activists or whoever. It is something that was conceived after or came into existence following situations around the world. For human rights, it was established in 1948 by the UN, the framework, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which was established by the United Nations in 1948. For us who know the history of the world, 1948, that was just 3 years after World War II, and with those mass killings and inhumane treatment of innocent citizens and human beings like us due to wars and due to the the thinking of just one person or a few that led to those mass killings.
That's right. Just a second. I think I've got a caller on the line. Let's just see. Speak your mind. Gold FM, only the classic hits. Hello, who is this?
Can I just put
I'm sorry, I cannot hear you too well. Can you just speak up?
Louis?
You have caught us during the live radio talkback show. Have you got a question?
Yes, education and the
Well, I'm so sorry about that. Just the wrong time to be calling in, interrupting in our very interesting conversation. I apologize for that. But yes, you have said that the Universal Declaration of Human Rights was created by the United Nations in 1948.
Yeah.
You mentioned that it was after the World War I.
World War II. Yeah.
World War II,
Yeah.
and just a lot of suffering. And I mean, that's what human rights is, for everyone to live a life, like you said, enjoy life and have a life of dignity.
Yes.
Right.
Something must be aware that the Universal Declaration of Human Rights is the collection of all rights that are now in place in the world, and it is sometimes being referred to as the mother of all rights. So when you talk about women's rights or Convention on Elimination of Discrimination Against Women, children's rights, conventions on the rights of the child, the International Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discriminations, so on and so forth. All these international conventions, all these rights instruments were derived from the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So going back to your initial question, it's very important for our people to be aware of the importance of human rights. That's why the government has come up with policies, with a legal framework to protect the life of our citizens. The issue of climate change,
Right.
that is like a hot topic now in Fiji. When you talk about natural disaster, all this, the policy, talking about protections, improvement in how the police handle the citizens when it's come to suspects. All those
Yes.
derive from human rights. Something I stated earlier on about water, roads, everything. It all has, in the heart of those, we have human rights in place. Yeah.
Yes, that's absolutely right. I mean, without human rights, I mean, we won't have a life to live happily.
Yes.
But unfortunately, I know that human rights are not being followed around the world. I mean, we've got, you know, all these terrible wars happening as we speak. You know, they don't think of human rights. So why is this?
It is the due negligence and due negligence of human rights, and it's a pity that people have breached the rights of people and of other people. This less value, or they don't see any value in human dignity, and for such reason they have come up with those actions.
Yes,
And,
sometimes I believe extreme. Is it an ideology where they think to the way of how they think, and
Yes.
they don't see? But maybe you would like to explain to us
it's,
all that.
something you must be aware of, that human rights is not about you only. It's about you and others. Like you said, those subgroups, they come up with the ideology, say, our way of living is right and not yours.
Right, so
But
they only see right in what they
yeah,
think and
or
nobody else.
Our skin color is superior than yours. That is not what human rights is. And it's said that that is what is happening around the globe.
Yes.
And but we are glad that we have the UN who are there, who have set this framework, and we have countries who are advocating on human rights. And we have mechanisms that are in place to take these people to task. For example, we have the International Court that deals with people who violate rights of people in their respective countries.
Yes, we'll be back for more on that topic of how people have eventually been taken to that court on Speak Your Mind, Gold FM, only the classic hits. We'll be back soon. Speak Your Mind on Gold FM, only the classic hits, a live radio talkback show. So if you're listening now, you have a question that you'd like to ask our guest, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Citizens Constitutional Forum, Mr. Matai Tawakilai, you're most welcome to call in 77322906 if you have a Digicel phone, or 3220907. Now, Mr. Matai Tawakilai, we were talking about how, human rights were being violated across the world, and how we had people, have this ideology that they're right and no one else is. But we've had instances, right, where people have been brought to justice, committing genocide. Maybe it took a while, but it happened. So you might like to highlight on this.
Yeah, we have heard cases of or histories of leaders, mostly in European countries and African countries, being taken to task, and some are still under investigation. Some has been charged, some has been sentenced for violating rights of the citizens of their countries under their leadership.
Okay.
Yeah. And apart from that, apart from this International Court of Justice and International Criminal Court, we have countries, our very own countries, who have ratified and party to all these international conventions. There are UN meetings that we all report to, and we will be asked questions why these particular rights are being violated in our countries, or the status of human rights in our respective countries. For example, the something that CCF is working on, CCF is part of, which is the Universal Periodical Review. It happens every 4 years. And we are under the implementation period now of the recommendations given by the 198 members of the UN who recommend for Fiji, and Fiji has agreed to, for us to implement within this 4-year cycle. If you can remember, last week there was a regional workshop on related to the UN Convention Against Torture, where the Attorney General was talking about a universal periodical review and how the government of Fiji has made progress in implementation of those recommendations.
Yes.
Yeah. So that is the mechanism where our countries who are party to these conventions are being asked or being questioned by other member states of the progress we have made so far.
Okay, so you guys are like the watchdog, right?
We are watchdog, not only the watchdog, but we would love to be partners when it comes to implementations of these recommendations.
For the progress of everyone.
Yes, because we need strong collaborations and good working relationship between civil society and government, because this is for everyone, like you just said. Yeah.
Right.
And our role is monitoring of these recommendations, not only on the Universal Periodical Review, on the International Convention Against Racial Discriminations,
right.
And for other women's groups, they're looking at the Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, and for those organizations whose focus is on children's rights.
Yes.
They report on the Convention on Rights of a Child.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, human rights very important, and we thank you very much for coming by and sharing all this information with us. Now, like we have there's quite a lot of articles on human rights, right? You can get a book or probably go on a website. It's there. How many altogether? There's about quite a
There are
lot.
30 articles
Oh, okay, 30.
in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
Okay.
No, like I said before, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights is the collection of all rights.
Yes.
Then we have the rights of, for example, women's rights. As you all know, the long form is Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. Then
Yes.
there are other number of articles
Okay.
within that right. Yeah.
Right,
Talk
like
about
all related
all related, yes.
in different ways. Like you said, you've got the LGBT community, we've
Yep.
got women,
Yep.
we've got the child rights.
Yes, we have rights of the minorities, rights of people with living with disabilities.
There you go.
The rights of indigenous people.
Okay.
Like I said, there are many rights that all derive from the Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
Okay.
When you said to me, "Hey, Mbulu, my rights to shout in the room, but I have my rights as well to privacy." You have to be mindful when you exercise your rights. You have to be mindful of others' rights.
Yes. So just be thoughtful. I mean, if I do have a right to yell, doesn't mean that, maybe I have someone who doesn't like yelling.
Yes, yeah. Out there in the communities, your rights, you have your individual rights.
Yes.
And you have the communal rights.
Right.
Things that you can do freely, but there are things you cannot do out there in public. And there are circumstances where your rights will be limited. For example, under state of emergency, your rights to movement will be restricted.
Yes.
That's why the police has been busy going out. I say, don't go out to the sea for seafarers, and or don't cross the river. If those of you living nearby the rivers, or for those living in low-lying areas, like what our news readers always remind us, to move to higher places.
Yes.
Those are some of the situations where our rights will be limited. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you very much. Very interesting. I must say now, just about, locally in Fiji. So what is the human rights situation like in Fiji? But sometimes we get the LGBT community, or maybe an example for women. What is we just run out of time again. So sorry, but we'll be back on that subject soon on Speak Your Mind. Speak Your Mind, Gold FM, only the classic hits. And we continue with our live radio talkback show with the Chief Executive Officer of the Citizens Constitutional Forum, Mr. Matai Tawakilai. Now, this is our last segment of the show. And just to ask our friend, what is the status of human rights here? What has CCF discovered?
That's a very good question. There is a lot of work needed to be done in Fiji in the area of human rights. When you talk about socioeconomic and political development in relation to human rights, we are progressing. We are making some progress. When you talk about understanding of human rights, for citizens to live, breathe human rights, and to place human rights above everything else, that is something that we have faced with every day. There's a lot of challenge in Fiji to accept human rights to be the heart of policy making, of decision making, human rights to be the benchmark of any development, and likewise for the citizens to understand human rights. Yes, there's a lot of work to be done, even though we are making progress, inward progress in improving of human rights situation in Fiji. in every country there are human rights violations.
Yes,
not only in
the
Fiji,
world over.
all over. Yeah,
That's
yes.
right.
And the challenge is there, understanding, accepting human rights as something that we should value, because it's about human dignity, about human lives, and understand human rights and relate human rights for everyone. Human rights is for everyone. It's the duty of everyone to promote, to protect, and respect human rights.
Yeah, that's so true. And just very interesting, what I found as well is this year's theme for Human Rights Day. That's on December the 10th.
Yes.
And it has a really good theme. Maybe you'd like to share with the listener about the theme and how great it is.
Yes, we are working with the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, with the UNDP, and the theme is "Stand Up for Someone's Rights."
Now, that's
Yeah.
a tricky one
Yep.
because, I mean, I know, for instance, here, you know, if, a domestic problem is going on, like how we have Shamima from the Fiji Women's Rights Movement, who comes in and says, if you hear a huge fight happening next door,
Yeah.
stand up for that person and, do something. But here, sometimes you're like, oh, no, that's just a domestic. Don't worry about it.
It's sad because at the end of the day, someone's life has been taken away because we
Turn the other way.
turn the other way, or say we take it for granted. Oh, that is their business. No, human rights, human life is your business, and we should commit ourselves to the protections of others' rights.
Yes.
For one instance, and I'm sorry, I'll mention names.
Yeah.
Because I know the person well, Losana McGowan, well-known person in
Media.
civil society and the media.
Yeah.
And there are other cases like her, which could have been not ended up where it is now, if neighbors could have intervened.
Try to come and cool the situation,
Yes,
don't aggravate it, or, just sort of, come
Yes.
on, calm down, you have to have that ability.
All right.
Yeah, so that's an example.
Yeah. Another example, this is something I watched in the social media through Facebook. There were two young ladies in Suba. They were fighting right, I think that was beside the handicraft center.
Right. In Suba, yes.
Yeah, maybe some girl issues, and the funny thing, we had people who were standing there.
Enjoying it.
Enjoying it, and they were taking pictures. And to them, taking pictures and uploading on Facebook is a big thing. But what happens if someone dies? What happens if someone is injured? And that's how our society is going to today. We are becoming more self-centered.
Yes.
And we are not thinking of others, seeing that person is a human being as well, and the person has rights like yours.
Yes,
Yeah.
and there's another example. I mean, I love the theme this year for Human Rights Day, to stand up for someone else's right. I think that's really good. And even it could be for someone who is, not educated and all, maybe a homeless person. You could stand up for that person's
Yes.
right, and, like you said, assist them. Look, you maybe you don't have to live like this. You can find help somewhere. So even to that.
Because you might know, or you have connections to an organization or to someone who can assist. By assisting, stepping in, like some of our good citizens are doing, that is an example of you standing up to someone's rights.
Yeah.
Or a friend being bullied in school or in
Right.
our community, friend of due to their sexual orientation, being counted for who they are, of their sexual orientation. And if you are there, rights, you can stand up for that person's right.
Just let them be. I mean, everyone has a choice in life, as long as, what I think even is, as long as they're not hurting you, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, why would you have a reason to have something against someone who hasn't even done anything wrong to you? That's just stupid.
Yes.
And I think human rights comes down to as well about just looking down on people. Don't look down on people. like you said, human rights. We're all the same. I know we're maybe different in economically
Yes.
and all that.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, anyway, we're almost finished. Maybe just
Yeah,
a
just-
last
yeah.
word
I
of
think just a final note.
inspiration from you.
Just addition to what we have discussed so far, human rights is not about elevating or to make you stronger than others. No, human rights is about you as a human being and about others as a human being. And rights comes with responsibilities. That is the most important thing about human rights. You have a right to education as a child, a right not to be given corporal punishment, a right to be protected from those harm. But it is your responsibility as a child to listen, to be obedient to your teachers, to your parents, or to whoever is older than you. And my responsibility as a citizen to be a law-abiding citizen.
Yes.
Not going around and violating others' rights, breaking into properties and say, I have my rights not to, I have my rights not to be harmed. But you must be aware that you have your responsibility not to harm others as well.
Well, that's great. We've come to an end. I know we will look forward to having you again on the show. And just the best of luck with all the events that you've got coming up, leading up to Human Rights Day on December the 10th.
And to all our listeners and FBC viewers.
Thank you so much. And our guest again, Chief Executive Officer of the Citizens Constitutional Forum, Mr. Matai Tawakilai. Well, it was great to have him. And until next week's episode of Speak Your Mind, you take care. Thank you so much for being with us.